So we're going on 3 years here at the Berry Bundle. And out of those 3 years, we've had some of the absolute highest and the absolute lowest of lows. And I want to run you back through some of that for the art of transparency here. So going forward in 2026, I really want to share with people on YouTube, and I hope as a smaller creator here that I can reach those people that are really considering it, especially with the push for being debt-free. I've seen that on social media, at least on my feed, that a lot of people are in this pursuit to be debt-free. Now, I don't think being completely debt-free is amazing, but I'm not here to give you financial advice on that. I think if you have good debt, like owning a home or maybe rental properties, I think that's good debt personally. But nonetheless, having debt on one of these campers here, probably not great debt. So we embarked on our journey 3 years ago, sold our house. At the time, we actually considered keeping our house, but we really didn't want to have anything holding us back. We didn't want something that we were thinking about, and we had just fully renovated our home and spent way too much money on really nice things that we didn't really want to rent it either. So we embarked on the road, allowed us to do this lifestyle debt-free, which I think personally sets you up for success. When you have a lot of debt going into this lifestyle, it is still super expensive out on the road, especially if you want to move a lot. Think about how much diesel, wear and tear. I mean, like I was saying, wear and tear, these campers literally break all the time. It doesn't matter what brand you have. You can have the Brinkley. I have an older video here about talking about the crack that I had repaired. I mean, it hasn't come back yet, knock on wood, but fortunately that was covered under warranty. But if you had an older rig, be out of pocket if you needed to. So I wanted to preface that because it means a lot to us. It was a huge piece of the puzzle to own our truck and trailer. As you can imagine, going back in time, we had 2 vehicles and then going into one, which that truck cost just about as much as the 2 vehicles combined, naturally. But I think you can do it at any level that you feel comfortable doing it. As we've gone on, I think that this rig is a little bit too big for us right now, but we did that on purpose. I think that you need to get the rig that fits your family the best from the get-go, or possibly if you want your family to grow or whatnot, buy the one that you think you may want and spend the extra money. I wish Brinkley was a bigger brand. I didn't even know about them when we originally bought our first camper. I would have just bought one from the get-go. This one that we have, the 3950, actually was debuted at the Tampa RV show, and then we bought it like 4 months later. So Kate, my wife, said she saw it and she said, I'm going to own that. And I said, yeah, right. And here we are. But by the highest of the highs, our highs are just being able to get set free from our home in Maine. We grew up there. That's where we lived. Until we did this life, we did a lot of traveling, but we'd never lived anywhere else. We'd only lived in Maine, which Maine is a great place. Overall, I know they're in the headlines with the news, and that's a whole nother ball game that I'm not going to get into. But overall, it's it's a great place. We had great childhoods growing up. But you know, being able to live in the RV and travel, being able to live somewhere different, it's a different vibe than just going on vacation. We found ourselves that every time we go on vacation, we would say, oh geez, I wonder if we could live here. But the problem is, you only want to live there during that vacation time, right? You know, only time I want to be in Florida is in the wintertime, because it's cold in Maine, unrelentingly cold, especially this year for you guys. I feel for you. That, like right now, I'm sure my Maine friends I watch are probably thinking, man, I could just pick up and move right now. But then Fast forward, if you're there in Florida in August, you're going to say, I am melting. I'm ready to be back in Maine where it's 75 and beautiful weather. So going back to the highs is being able to live in some of the coolest places at the best times of the year. I mean, we went to Moab, Utah last year in pretty amazing weather. It was 65, 70 degrees every day. So it wasn't that unrelenting heat, or it wasn't cold because we were there in the spring. And then from there we went to Montana, and that's where I ended up spending the summer. And honestly, it was a little bit hotter than I anticipated, but you know, that's the time to be there in the middle of summer. But the lows being when you're on the road and you have your whole house, and for us last year, when you have an issue at home that you need to be there for, and being able to get back home with your whole setup and in a timely fashion is not easy. In last week's video, I talked about the painful ride we did from Montana to Maine, and we did that trip in 5 travel days. Was like one of those experiences where you just want to stop. Like it just 8 hour to 12 hours from the time we got in the truck to the time we got out. 8 or 9 hours of actual drive time. And then when you're towing these trailers and you get into these trucking highways where they chuck and you buck, it just about kills you. So it can be a lot to do the life, and that's something going forward that I'm going to show you more of. I want to get the camera out when we are chucking so you can see that when you chuck the way that you chuck for an hour, it reorganizes your intestines, you know. To piggyback off that of being across the country, I mean, if you were to live in a different state, it'd be very similar. When you need to go home for anything, a wedding, even something happy like I said, like a wedding or, you know, a family reunion, it's just, you know, more logistics you have to plan through. But truly, there is nothing like this lifestyle. And I've had a lot of people reach out to me, especially people that I know from back home, that say this is something that I really want to do. And they're my age, maybe a little bit older, maybe a little bit younger. They're like, I really want to do RV life. They want the freedom. They want all these things. And there really is no other thing that I can think of that you can do unless you do the sailboat life, where it's just pick up and go. And I highly recommend anybody who has the willpower to do it, because it does change your life and it opens up opportunities that you would not do otherwise. You know, when we left on the road, I actually didn't have a job lined up. I just told my employer at the time, hey, I bought an RV and we're going to travel in it. I don't know how long. I'd like to work here. If I can find a remote job, that'd be amazing. I work at a pretty big corporation. They said, well, you know, we love you. Like, yeah, we'd love to keep you. You know, peruse the job site and see what you can find. So I ended up getting a job promotion, which I wouldn't have gotten because I wouldn't have been looking for it, honestly. So it just all worked out, right? It's just one of those things that if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Originally, Kate and I were going to do travel contracts. She used to be an MRI tech, and that's what we were going to do. Just drive around, hit contracts for 3 months at a time, travel and get to learn the area for those 3 months, and then fill those gaps with adventures. And then she ended up getting a remote job, so we both work remote. So it's literally the best case scenario. We both work remotely. We get to go anywhere we want for any amount of time that we want. And it's honestly been a blessing, truly. And like right now, we're mooch docking here with our friends from Mississippi. And it's just great that we're able to do this and spend quality time with our friends that we've made along the way. And I think that's probably one of the other biggest benefits is as you travel through these places, you make friends, and along the way, you get to stop and see them. But one thing, you know, I know I'm just standing here talking. I don't really want to get into too I don't want to get into it really deep right yet. I just wanted to kind of warm back up and maybe have you get to know me a little bit better so we can build this relationship between you and me here. Because I want to get into the cost of this stuff too. The sky is the limit. And recently, I think the prices, I've seen a lot of people say, oh, the 2026 prices are outrageous. I actually think that things are starting to come down a little bit because I think the economy is in a rough place right now, personally. And I don't think as many people are going to be traveling. But nonetheless, it's still expensive. And right now, we hover around $1,000 a month for an RV park. Now, some people might say that's crazy. I would never pay that. I pay $500 if I'm going to stay here, and they're in somewhere in West Texas in the oil fields or whatnot. I don't know, but there are some places we found that are $500 a month, and they're in very remote areas. And we've also found places that are $1,500 a month that are outside of bigger cities. We've spent upwards of $3,000 for a month at a resort, which I won't name because I don't want any issues, but one of those things that it's like, okay, one and done. One of those situations where we wanted to relax and reset, and we were going to do a cruise, and instead we decided to do a resort. But the RV life is what you make it. Last month we were in Myrtle Beach, and our neighbor was a $2 million motor coach. And makes, it puts the Brinkley to shame, right? It's like, yeah. It puts it into perspective, and on the other side of me, we had a 15-foot camper that was being towed by a Jeep, and I was like, man, I wish I had that thing. So I think realistically, you're going to have more highs than you will lows. But when the highs are high, the highs are super high. Like life-changing high, I think, where we just seen some things and had experiences that they just are incredible. I don't know how else to put it. And the lows, you really need to be, if you're going to do this with your partner, you have to be solid, because you are the only person, you and your spouse are the only people you can rely on most of the time, because you're by yourself out on the road. It can be very lonely at times. It can be very secluded at times. And it can also bring you closer, but it can also, I think, if you weren't in the right place mentally, separate you even faster if you're already on that path. Because doing this can be very stressful, especially after a long day on the road, getting things picked up, crying kids, crying dogs, you're crying, I'm crying. I don't know, things like that. But it helps when you make friends along the way. And you can really depend on it. You can grow that community like you would back wherever you're from or wherever you are now. Because what else can I talk about with you guys? Like I said, I'm just standing here walking around, hoping that I can show you the personal side of me. And what I'm trying to do here is just talk a little bit more, like I was saying last week, in 2026, just to talk about the life, because I think most people, you have a lot of questions. There's a lot of videos out there. YouTube, there's thousands of RV content creators. I suggest finding the small people and following them as much as you can, but also the big ones too. I feel like the big guys, they hype it up a little bit more than it is, the reality of it. You got to think I make a video once a week, which I haven't for the last few months. I know. You show a 15-20 minute video of all the things that you did over the week, but most of the time, we're just in the RV. Even when we're not working, we're just in the RV doing stuff like you would at your home. Watch the Patriots game this weekend. Go Pats. We're going to the AFC Championship. I don't know if they got it to win the whole thing, but they've done good so far, and I'm proud of them for that. Sidetrack. So our lives are pretty boring, honestly. We work, we watch TV, we eat, we go for the occasional walk. We walk quite a bit. Try to get on the hikes when we're in those places, and just try to take in the culture the best that we can. I think that's another cool side of it. Different restaurants, different things to try. The down on that is grocery stores. Every grocery store having a different layout is a pain in the butt. To find the stuff that you need just can be it can be cumbersome at times. But I will leave you with this. I'm going to make this another kind of quicker video this week as I get back into it. In the future, would you like me to do a 5 things that I hate with in-depth about RV life and a 5 things that I love with in-depth? Something that has a little more than just me running my mouth about different things, and actually writing it out and talking about it and breaking it down. And also, what other content would you really like to see? I know I will put in travel stuff. Right now we are stationary, working and just getting in appointments and things like that. So if there's something that you really want to see, please leave me a comment. I really want to tailor it towards you guys going forward, and obviously including what we're doing when we are doing cool stuff, which we will be, and we always are, right? It's always cool, but most of it sucks. Highs and lows, right? I mean, I'm going to have some truck content. I'm going to do some camper content. I definitely have some ideas for this, but please feel free to let me know, like, what's something that you really have a question about. Maybe even I can do a video on would I do it again and actually talk about it. If I knew what I knew now, would I do it again? Would I take this lunge? Would we take this lunge? Or would we say, no, we'd just stay where we were and do something different? Don't know. But thanks again for sticking around and watching this, especially if you're here right now. We appreciate that. So for that, we'll see you next week, and be safe.